Welcome to Public Power Underground, Northwest Public Power's premier weekly infotainment program that covers Northwest Public Power and public power adjacent news from a power department's perspective. This is Season 3, Episode 3, Into the Twitterverse. It's the third season, a season of sustainable new normals. We promise it's totally normal for you to tell your boss it's work to watch if they stop by while you're catching up. And if you're working from home, it's fine that you spend your time listening to content targeted for electric utility enthusiasts. Not weird or abnormal at all.
We bring in some people way smarter than us. Those in the industry with knowledge to trust. We know we aren't perfect, sometimes it's a bust. But we'll roll on, enthusiasts, roll on. Roll on, enthusiasts, roll on. Roll
on today's show, we'll get an update on Northwest power markets on Arin Reports, talk about energy Twitter with online personalities at Simon Mahon and at D Catchpole, get a market update on renewable developers from Avangrid's Vice President of Origination, Holly Carias, prepare for CAISO's extended day-ahead market forum with PPC's Mike Linn, and as always, cover more public power and public power adjacent news. I'm the voice of the underground and economic development manager for Clatskanie PUD, Brian Fawcett. Paul, to get us in the right frame of reference, can you play a clip of Hansel from Zoolander talking about giving it his best shot?
I care desperately about what I do. Do I know what product I'm selling? No. Do I know what I'm doing today? No. But I'm here and I'm going to give it my best shot.
And this is Karen Heim, the Office Administrator for the Public Power Council, editor of Wire to Wire, editor at large of the Public Power Underground and its newest co-star. Paul, can you play Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso being psychologically healthy for me?
Coach, I'm me. Why would I want to be anything else?
That feels good.
It does feel good.
And I'm the current power analyst for Clatskanie PUD and co-star of Public Power Underground, Ian Bledsoe. And for full transparency, I haven't watched the final 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, but this serves as official notice, Paul, that I have seen season 1 of Ted Lasso.
Nice.
Yes.
Paul, I need a Big Lebowski quote to get in the mood.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man. Yeah.
I'm Paul Dockery, the manager of the Power Department, co-host of Public Power Underground, the sound tech, giving you some great sound bites as we go along. And I very much like the sound bites in the intros. And here is a quote from Dr. Fieldstone from Ted Lasso describing Ted Lasso's dialogue.
Some obscure reference to something very specific to a 40-year-old white man from Middle America.
I feel good about this. I feel good.
I'm loving these sound bites.
That's great.
That sound bite sounded like a season 2 spoiler, though, Paul.
Hey, I was very clear in the live show. You should not be watching this if you have not seen and are not up to date.
If you do not know, you will know.
Yeah, like you need to be up to date, Ian. You got to get into season 2. I mean, we're on season.
Can I put that Apple subscription on a company card then?
No, you cannot. Thanks for asking, though. That was really good.
Any of our listeners can donate an Apple subscription to Ian, though, if they would like. Maybe give them their login, whatever it may be.
I have a really good technique where you don't have to give people your username and password. There's like this trick that you can just use your. It works really well. Happy to share that technique offline with anybody.
Ooh, look at that extra.
Yeah, I was
info.
going to say this is probably going to get us
really
kicked off of Apple Podcasts for advocating for sharing
Google.
passwords.
I'm sure Google doesn't share our information with other people, right? I mean, that's not something.
They hold it very close to their chest. Nobody else needs to see it.
Hey, folks! Before we get too much further on, how about we make today's episode a masterpiece?
What do you say we do what the man says and make today our masterpiece? Yeah.
Perfect.
Do it.
Well, let's get into it then. We're starting this week, like most weeks, checking in on power market indicators in the Northwest with our first segment, Arin Reports, with Ian reporting.
But my first sentence was so amazing. This is Arin Reports, where we try to get up to speed on Northwest market indicators for September 23rd, 2021. I'm Ian Bledsoe, and I've got your market update for the week. April through September flows at the Dalles are expected to be at 82% of normal, unchanged from last month. The Northwest River Forecast Center has started publishing forecasts for water year 2022, and October through September flows are currently forecast to be 93% of normal, and April through September is at 96. Outflow at the Dalles peaked over the past week at 113.6 kcfs on September 18th at 1800 hours. Day-ending elevation at Grand Coulee on September 22nd was 1281. Peak outflow this week hit after the PPUs September 21st at 102.2 kcfs at 2000 hours. Spot market power in the Northwest for delivery September 23rd is at $63 with gas at $5.05 per MMBTU, translating to a spark spread of $27.64 and a heat rate of 12,475. In term markets, BOM for Mid-C is now at 55.50 per megawatt hour. Mid-C power for December 2021 is at $95, down from $106.55 last Thursday. December gas at Sumas is trading at $7.05, translating to a heat rate of 13,475. Taking a look at fish counts at Bonneville Dam, B-Run steelhead are trending up. 1,049 steelhead passed through the Bonneville Dam yesterday. Chinook and coho salmon counts continue to exceed preseason forecasts. 156,349 coho and 301,476 Chinook across Bonneville so far this year. Spending a beat at Bonneville's Balancing Authority. Peak load this past week was 6,303 on September 21st at 19:25 in the PM. During load's peak, hydrogen was at 7,504. Okay, hydrogen, not the element hydrogen, was at 7,504. Wind gen was at 218 megawatts. Conventional units were at 1,174 and nuclear was 1,140 megawatts. Climate Prediction Center website appears to be broken, but the multivariate ENSO index for July through August is negative 1.34. That's indicating a La Nina. Special thanks to Answergy for letting us use their dashboards for Arin Reports and to Luigi for collecting and compiling the data for the forecast. That's all we got for the update.
Thanks for the report, Ian. I think my main takeaway is I'm going to start calling hydrogen, and just see how people respond.
Make a trend. Do it.
I love it.
I'm also glad we fully recapped the A run and B run last week, so everyone was already in the know when he read through that. Yeah.
And I'm just continuing to be excited about the B run situation.
There we go.
Does it mean that you may get to fish in Idaho if the B run for steelhead is above forecast? Do I remember that right from last week?
Yep. And they actually, it's far enough along that they have updated the forecast. I think it added an additional 25% or so based on the latest counts. So things are looking up.
Things are looking up. I think the website did come back up for the climate forecasts, but it was definitely down when Luigi and I were trying to update this morning. So, but it is back up, and it looks like temperature is going to be below, and precipitation is going to be above, which is what you like in the fall. Maybe we can get some snowpack. Maybe we'll start reporting snowpack sometime this October. October seems like
snow has started falling in the upper Slice Mountains. So in BC, there was a dusting over the weekend, it looked like.
St. Helens had a dusting on it as well. I mean, we could kind of see it ourselves as well.
Okay.
I love the reference to the Slice Mountains. There is a song in there, Ian. I feel like there's a song in there that we need to write about the Slice Mountains. Okay, we're going to jingle out of Arin Reports. And we're going to typewriter into faucet.
All right. Next up is our weekly walkthrough Northwest Public Power and public power adjacent news in a segment we like to call Public Power Desktop. Take it away, Karen.
Thanks, Brian. Wildfires directly or indirectly took BPA transmission lines out of service 30 times this summer, according to VP of Transmission System Operations, Michelle Cathcart. Some of the outages were only a few hours long, 14 were for the safety of firefighters, and only one was a public safety or PSPS to prevent causing a wildfire. The agency's only PSPS this summer came on June 21st when a high wind warning prompted the agency to de-energize a section of its Brasada Harney 115 kV number 1 line. The goal of Bonneville's wildfire plan was to notify affected customers of a PSPS a day in advance. However, on June 21st, to quote, the weather came up much more quickly than that, and we weren't able to give the amount of notice to our customers, Cathcart said. The agency notified affected customers 95 minutes before the line's Posada Best Lane section was shut down, according to a timeline provided by Cathcart. BPA de-energized transmission lines 14 times this summer for the safety of firefighters working around the line, and smoke caused 15 outages on 9 lines. 8 of those outages were on 3 lines in July during the bootleg fire in Oregon. The growing severity and increasing frequency of wildland fires prompted BPA to adopt its first ever wildfire mitigation plan in 2020. Bonneville has already revised its plan based on real world experience. In a PSPS instance, Bonneville revised its procedure to notify potentially affected customers as soon as the agency is considering a PSPS, rather than wait until it has decided to de-energize the line. For more information, be sure to check out Clearing Up's news brief in issue 2022.
I find it interesting that smoke caused 15 outages on 9 lines. Does anybody else, does anyone have an explanation for how the smoke actually causes an outage?
Yeah, it's so smoky that, smoke is actually small particles of matter suspended in the air. And air is a better insulator than those particles of matter. So it can easily arc between the particles in the smoke.
Oh, wow. I had not considered that. Makes sense from an engineering perspective.
I was like, I thought it was weird too. And that's why I researched it.
Doing the prep work.
Love it. Okay, what's next?
PPC's Director of Market Analytics and Public Power Underground Special CAISO Correspondent, Mike Linn, agreed to stop by to prepare us for CAISO's October 13th, 2021 Extended Day Ahead Market Forum, hosted by free virtual webinar from 8:30 to noon.
Hey, Mike, welcome back to Public Power Underground.
Hey, Paul, it's great to see you. I'm so happy to be back here on Public Power Underground talking shop again.
Yes, absolutely. Have you been on all 3 seasons? Were you in on the first season? I feel like you were like the 4th guest on the first season.
I think I am at this point appearing on all 3 seasons of the Public Power Underground now.
Yes, love it. Love every minute of it. And who knows, maybe there'll be more seasons and you'll be finally get the Anadromous Championship belt. The actual belt is sitting in Karen's office. Which I don't know that you've been to PPC's offices in a very long time, but it's there. And I've got my token miniature version of it over here.
Oh, I love it.
Yep. Well, I wanted to have you back because CAISO is hosting some virtual conference to go over the extended day ahead market. And you're the special CAISO correspondent, and I'd love to get your take on what's important, what's going on, if there's any like public power interest here that we should be aware of before the conference or virtual webinar happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if it feels like we haven't talked about EDAM in a bit, it's because we haven't. It's, the last meeting that they hosted was at this point over a year ago. So this is CAISO's kickoff. Their goal is to have a fresh start for EDAM, and they're starting it off with this conference where they're going to have multiple panels to talk about key concepts, principles, and share regional perspectives on an extended day ahead market and kind of the value proposition of building upon the EIM. So I'll be watching, kind of several key things as this meeting takes place and as the agenda and the bios and the panelists are announced. Kind of the first thing is EDAM, we haven't met in a while, but there has been work done. There has been a small subset of EIM entities that have been meeting with the California IOUs and CAISO. And in that time, they've been working to find areas of common agreement. And, they've actually developed a set of principles that we expect them to share at this meeting. The first thing I'm going to watch for is, what do these principles look like relative to that initial set of EIM entity principles that were released at the very start of EDAM? And, what is the framing of whose principles these are? Is it the subgroup, or are they going to be speaking for the collective EIM entities similar to the last letter? We've heard that it's going to be pretty high level, but I really want to see if those principles touch on some of those key areas of friction that came up last time during the EDAM. So governance, how voluntary is this market, things of that nature. Price formation. Let's see. Transmission, greenhouse gas.
All areas, all great topics.
Yes. And then I guess, the final thing I'm going to be watching for is I want to hear any perspectives of how fresh this start is. A lot of work went into that last stakeholder initiative. There was multiple bundles, multiple work teams. Is this a clean, fresh start? Are we starting from scratch, or are there pieces that are going to flow through to this? I'd like to see, are we rebuilding everything, or are we going to try to pick and build off that work that happened earlier?
Okay, I got two questions for you. I'm going to put you on the put a little pressure on you. Hope you don't mind. We can always cut this out if you don't like my questions. First, was Bonneville part of that subgroup that has been working on these revised principles? Do you know?
No, Bonneville was not part of this subgroup.
Okay. Bonneville is considered part of the EIM participant group that will have stakeholder input into this EDAM process?
Yes, they absolutely will. And this EIM sub-entity group was a subset of that group that Bonneville is a part of. So
was Bonneville, were they part of choosing who would be in the subgroup, or was it just a subgroup of people decided to choose themselves?
I believe, it had a lot. I'm not entirely positive on this, Paul, but, there may have been some concerns, with Elliot Mainzer and the cool-off period related to Bonneville. So I think that may have helped kind of steer who was included and who was excluded from that small group.
Okay, that was my first question. The second question is whether, in your opinion, this is just Mike Linn, okay, just your opinion, do we need a fresh restart? Are we hoping that it comes as a fresh restart and fresh approach to EDAM? Or do you, Mike Linn, think that there is value in continuing with some of the work product that had already been developed?
I personally think a lot of the work product that came out of that initial set of work, especially around the principles, the EIM entities, topics that they really wanted to focus on were very important. I don't think we should throw all of that out. So I am, very curious to watch the differences between those two. And I think it might set up some early discussions about bridging issues of how this progresses and who really wants to be involved.
Okay, you're going to be there. You're going to have some, be listening in. So if we need some download afterwards, you're the person to talk to at PPC, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay. We know how to find you. Thanks a lot, Mike, for joining. Anything you want to leave with? You got a new title, right? You're a director of market analytics now, right?
I am. It's a brand new title. I think it's hot off the presses, maybe just even a week.
It was on the website. That's how I learned about it. Is there are we gonna pop some corks? Is there gonna be a champagne celebration? Wasn't I advocating for like a superstar status? I feel like during that one, we had you as a superstar on here before.
I think so. You know what? Here's the deal. The next time we're in person, that's the point, and we can indulge in a beverage.
I'm there for it, Mike. Thank you for being a friend of the underground. Always fun to have you.
Great. Thank you, Paul.
Right. For the third consecutive year, the region missed the annual energy efficiency target set in the Northwest Power and Conservation Council's 7th Power Plan. In order to hit the 7th Power Plan's 1,400 average megawatt 6-year goal would require nearly doubling its 2020 savings. Though COVID is likely a cause of some of the decreased savings, the trend began before the pandemic. The decreased level of savings underscores one of the findings of the Council's draft 2021 Power Plan. In the plan, energy efficiency becomes less cost-effective as cheap renewables come online. For more information, see Dan's article in Clearing Up at www.newsdata.com/clearingup.
Some great content by Dan this week. Good job, Dan. Good job by you. I need a soundbite of Bill Simmons saying, "Good job by you." Don't we,
that should be a good one, easy one to find, I would think.
Yeah, that is a very obscure reference that 40-year-old white men would know.
Some obscure reference to something very specific to a 40-year-old white man from Middle America.
Okay.
All right, joining the underground to report on the happenings of, is it hashtag energy Twitter or just energy Twitter?
Hashtag
Hashtag. Okay, well, Fawcett didn't say that earlier.
Oh, I definitely screwed that one up.
Okay, so that's what happens when you're a 40-year-old white guy. You don't know. I'm kidding.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's why we got to have you,
here we
Karen.
go. Joining the Underground to report on the happenings of hashtag Energy Twitter are the stars of Twitter Sphere and new friends of the Underground. Hopefully, maybe. A contributing editor of Clearing Up, Dan Catchpole, and the executive director of the Southern Renewable Energy Association, Simon Mahan.
Hey, Dan, welcome to Public Power Underground.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
It's so fun to finally get you on screen. We've tried this before, but we're doing it. We're actually doing it this time.
Yeah.
It's great to have you. So I'm really new to Energy Twitter. And in this experience of Energy Twitter, it's you and Matt Shretnick are my kind of conduits into Energy Twitter. Let me see if I got a tish. Yes, you're my conduits into Energy Twitter. And so I was hoping you could help me kind of figure out where Energy Twitter is going, along with a star of Energy Twitter who had this idea of maybe there's a podcast segment around Energy Twitter and what's happening on Energy Twitter. Simon Mahan. Simon joined us. Welcome to Public Power Underground, Simon.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Paul.
You are the star as far as I'm concerned, at least the star I follow. Dan, who else should I be following?
Hold on a second. What am I thought that's how you got me on this. I thought I was the star.
You're the blue check mark of Energy Twitter. That's where you're at. Look at this. Look at this blue check mark. Bam.
That's good.
It's Dan.
That's good.
It's it's the one thing I can claim and to have done of notoriety in my life. I have a blue check mark. I won't say what I did to get it, but I got it.
I assume you gave up some very personal information to Twitter. Hopefully,
there were things that were done that cannot be undone. Let's just move along before I make some really weird joke.
Yeah,
keep
please.
Rolling. Keep rolling.
So that help me. How do I find Energy Twitter? I've got you two. I've got Matt Shretnick at Shretnick, a great follow. Who else should I follow? And is it just hashtag Energy Twitter? Is that it, or is there some list I could use instead?
Well, yeah. So I do have to first put in a plug for all the Energy News Data Twitter handles, which you should also all follow.
I'm pretty sure I do, but let's search.
Well,
I'm here. I'm live. Let's do this. It's like at News Data. I got at
CU News Data is Clearing Up, which I handle their Twitter feed.
Following.
Anyway,
I got it right here. Call to Lasso. We should all be Ted Lasso followers. We should all be in Ted Lasso Twitter too. Simon, are you in Ted Lasso Twitter?
I am not. I apologize.
Okay. I haven't gotten into Ted Lasso.
Okay, well, we need to correct that. And also Shea Serrano. I hope to cement myself in the Shea Serrano fan club on Twitter, the Ted Lasso cult of Lasso kind of Twitter following, and Energy Twitter. How do I get into Energy Twitter, Simon?
Well, yeah. So first is the hashtag. So it's just hashtag Energy Twitter. You punch that into the search, and you should be able to bring up the most recent, the latest, the top posts that folks are putting on Energy Twitter. Sometimes it's better than not, and you just have to keep trying it every once in a while. But anytime you see someone use that hashtag, give them a follow, because they're in the know. And so there's not a requirement in order to use that hashtag or anything. It's free. It's a free website. And so just kind of scroll through it and you'll see a number of folks that have been using it, from federal level advocates, state level folks, local folks, and just kind of all across the energy industry. I mean, we've got electrical folks, there's natural gas and winds and nuclear and solar and batteries and electric vehicles. So it's a pretty broad spectrum of folks that have used the hashtag in the past.
Now,
Simon's created a directory.
I have, yeah. So when the pandemic hit early last year, I was really starting to feel quite lonely as an extrovert, and really missing the in-person interaction. And I work by myself, so I don't have colleagues to banter off of. And so I really wanted to dig into Energy Twitter and get more acquainted with folks there. And I was just finding it was really, really hard for me to break out of my own bubble because I work in the Southeast, and so I follow things on TVA, on Southern Company, on Duke, on Entergy, on MISO. But I realized that there's just a whole world of folks out there that I could be learning more stuff from and becoming best friends with across the interwebs. And so I started asking folks. I said, who do I need to follow? And I get, 244 characters worth of folks to follow. And oftentimes it was the same folks over and over again, which is good, but it wasn't really expanding out to the non-blue checks, so to speak. And so that's where this idea of this directory came in, where I just created a very simple Google form where folks can put in as much or as little information as they want. And once they do that, then they'll get a link to the spreadsheet of everybody else that's also done that. And that is kind of an auto way for folks to self-populate themselves into that directory and then also get access to the directory. And so we're up close to 650 folks that are listed in that directory. We've got some all-star folks like Leah Stokes, who has tens of thousands of followers, and we've got Representative Sean Casten from Illinois, who's doing Hot for Summer, and all the way down to the folks that are brand new to Twitter that made their account specifically so that they can get engaged with Energy Twitter. So it's a full wide breadth of folks that are signing up in the directory, and I'm hoping it's helpful for folks to find out who they want to follow, who they might want to get more in contact with, and really kind of spread out the number of folks that we're getting engaged with Energy Twitter.
So it looks like I did it. I did it, Simon. I signed up. I'm on the form now, apparently.
Nice.
So there's 613. Is that what I'm understanding correctly? Twitter handles I should be following?
Yep. That's probably pretty right.
That seems pretty reasonable. Is there some list, like Twitter list where I can go do this? Or is it really I got to go through and push these in on my own and hit follow?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to mass import them all. But if you, at least in a Windows computer, if you hover your cursor over a name, it should auto-populate the web page for that person, and then you can right-click and open it up in a new window. And so you can do that through 30, 40 different tabs and get just a whole ton of folks up all at once. And you go through and just follow them one at a time. And in short order, you can end up following just a ton of people.
You don't think you can do a list?
Simon,
can't you make me a list so I can follow your list?
This is as much as I've done. Someone else can make the list.
It seems like maybe this is clearing up. Could provide a service here, Dan. You could have a list. Just saying, or maybe I will. Maybe I'll come up with a list. Who knows?
That would be great.
Who knows? So I've got hashtag Energy Twitter. It seems like sometimes I get into these really fun threads about fission and fusion Twitter and people arguing. Are there things like other deeper Energy Twitter, more specialized Energy Twitter that you find entertaining? Either of you, Dan or Simon. What's your favorite Energy Twitter subject?
It's not so much an Energy Twitter one, but just as a reporter, one that I find is useful to track because these are becoming such synonymous issues is just like climate change issues. I mean, if you do hashtag climate change, it's pretty broad, but so it's more I make sure to follow a few people covering in that area.
I started following climate science Twitter. Climate science Twitter.
Yeah,
I love it. They got some
good
great
one.
memes.
It can get that's a little high level sometimes, but then again, we're covering news data, covering where policy and science kind of mesh into the real world. So I've got to kind of keep my feet in both worlds. The other thing during the summer, especially wildfire, is a pretty useful one. California wildfires, Northwest wildfires. Anybody who's living out here No, that doesn't really apply to you, Simon.
So you follow a lot of IRPs too, from what I've gathered, and transmission data. Who's got the best open source, like utility map, transmission map? Where do I get open source data?
Oh gosh. Well, I just found recently it's the high detailed infrastructure from Homeland Security. I think they for whatever reason they have all this data now on the transmission system that you can go in and you can download the data, you can pull it up in an open viewer and check it out. It's been really helpful. So I live in Little Rock, but I work on all things Entergy and MISO. And it's been really helpful to try and figure out what transmission lines went down in New Orleans after Hurricane Ida, because really all we kept getting were these images of a picture of a map of New Orleans, and then there were 8 or 9 different transmission lines all around the city that were just down. And in transmission world, those transmission lines have names, and the names are usually substation A to substation B. And so it's important to try and figure out what the names of those lines are, so you know how big they are. You can potentially find out when they were installed, how long they've been in operation. And so by Googling around and trying to find some of that data, I was able to find it. And oftentimes you will see folks on Energy Twitter ask for that data. Where are the transmission lines? How can I download it? And the quip has often been, well, you must be a terrorist, because only terrorists want to know where critical infrastructure is.
That's the only person who could have any interest.
Yeah, that's right. Like some Die Hard movie. But I was able to, I found some of it, and so I put it out there. And I love working with Google Earth because it's open source, it's free. You can download a lot of the power plant data of where the units actually are, and then match it up with where the transmission system is, which is just an incredible amount of data that 10 years ago we wouldn't have had that type of information. But Energy Twitter, like, we can ping that out around the world now, and folks can get better access to it.
Yeah, it's been a great follow, and I'm only following like 70 people of Energy Twitter right now. I'm probably only following like 40 people on Energy Twitter, and then 30 people on Ted Lasso and Chase Around.
Yeah, that's a good ratio.
It is. I'm gonna expand that to like 600 though, because I'm gonna follow your list, Simon. Thank you very much. Yeah. It seems like a fun space. These are fun people. Am I reading that right?
Oh yes, yeah. I have found there's a lot of subtweeting that happens, especially when folks get involved in utility dockets, or especially around transparency. We will frequently share around redacted, pages of material that is just blacked out for stakeholder processes, and it's kind of like, did you really need to redact like the authors of this report? Like, it's not trade secret.
What about you, Dan? What's your fun part of the Energy Twitter?
Oh, I just most of all, it's always an education when I go on there. So that's the main thing I appreciate about it. It's just people who have the training, the time, the passion to understand things on a deeper level than I can. As a journalist, like, our knowledge is, even as a specialized journalist, it's like a mile wide and an inch deep, right? And so I just find it fascinating to go on and read these threads and these back and forths about people who are just, like I said, have the training, passion, and the time to dig into these things. I do want to say, as an aside, I love your comment about sharing redacted information. I'd like you all to take a minute to take a look at my on my Twitter bio, my profile photo, not like my profile photo, but the header photo. You will all, I think, appreciate it.
For all those on the Apple Podcast, go to @DCatchpole, check out his header profile. It is a great redacted image.
I've looked at a lot of redacted documents over the decades, and that by far is my favorite.
Good. Well, I am really excited that y'all agreed to come on and talk about Energy Twitter. I'm hoping if I start following people and there's some great news on Energy Twitter, you'll both come back and we can talk about it. Maybe we can actually get into some content next time. That sound good, Dan?
Absolutely.
How about you,
I
Simon?
love that.
Let's do it, man.
Friends of the Underground now. Friends of the Underground. I'm very excited about this.
Underground forever. I already got the tattoo.
That's it. And next, we're going to actually cover a topic that I found on Energy Twitter, which is about the UK's energy issues and their natural gas price spike, which I wouldn't have even noticed if not for Energy Twitter. So let's go. Let's go back to the Underground for news.
European natural gas prices are setting new records. Spot market natural gas prices in the UK cleared on September 15th, 2021 at 177.3 pence sterling per therm, which translates to 24.33 per MMBTU. That was dollars. Compare that to gas at Sumas for December, which is currently trading at $7.35. You get the picture. UK natural gas futures for December gas are trading around 190 pence sterling per therm, or $26.07 per MMBTU, up from a $5.22 per MMBTU a year ago. The UK has a combination of retail choice and supplier of last resort electric markets, which are subject to energy price caps. The crisis has led several energy suppliers to exit the retail market. Experts cite 5 main causes of the spike in gas prices: maintenance on gas platforms, gas storage being low because of colder winter last year and a slow refill, less imports to Europe from Russia squeezing regional demand, lower wind output than normal, and unplanned outage on electrical transmission lines from sourcing power from France. To learn more, follow Energy Twitter or look for articles from publications on the other side of the Atlantic, like Sky News and the Financial Times.
I tell you what, the conversion attempt I did on this took all of the Klatskin IPUD's best data specialists and power analysts to get this right. I was so confused. It was pence and not pounds, and symbols and unit conversion was complicated for me.
I think, Paul, it's still only an approximate conversion. So disclaimer, do not base any of your trading decisions on the information you hear on Public Power Underground, because a UK therm is not actually the same as a US therm. So I'm not sure if it's that accurate. I also want to point out, none of these reasons are COVID, which I have been hearing COVID as a reason for everything over the last 2 years. So
it also could just be an assumption these days that COVID impacts everything.
Good point.
Okay.
All right. In Wind Power Monthly and Business Wire's September 15th publications, it was announced that $2.3 billion were raised to fund the construction of Vineyard Wind 1, a wind farm project on which Avangrid and Copenhagen have partnered. Construction for the project will start this month. Vineyard Wind 1 is expected to begin delivering power in Massachusetts in 2023. The project, which will feature 84 turbines, will have a capacity of 800 megawatts and reduce electricity costs by about $1.4 billion and carbon emissions by more than 1.6 million metric tons every year. This project will help combat climate change while also creating more job opportunities. A partnership with the Massachusetts Building Trades for construction will allow Avangrid to offer fair and family-supporting wages, as well as workplace protection for workers. To learn more about this project, you can read Wind Power Monthly's article by Craig Richard titled Avangrid and CIP Reach Financial Close on $2.3 billion Vineyard Wind 1 Offshore Project, or Business Wire's article titled Avangrid's Vineyard Wind 1 Joint Venture Reaches Financial Close. Special thanks to Underground's own Luigi Gelin for summarizing the insightful articles. And now joining the Underground to talk about Avangrid, offshore wind, renewables in the Northwest, and a little bit of Ted Lasso is Avangrid's Vice President of Origination's friend of Paul and a new friend of the Underground, Holly Carias.
Hey, Holly, welcome to Public Power Underground.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm good. How have you been? It's so exciting to have you on.
Thanks, I've been great. How's the school year going for you?
It's nice to have the kids back in school. My kids, some days they're really excited about going, some days they aren't. And it's like a coin flip on how successful everybody is getting out the door.
I know. You never know when they come downstairs.
Exactly. What they're going to be wearing.
Exactly. Exactly.
So Avangrid was in the news last week for the closing of Vineyard Wind, the first U.S. commercial scale offshore wind project.
That's
Wanted to have
correct.
you
Yeah,
on. Yeah, go ahead. It's exciting.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. $2.3 billion, first close in the US ever for offshore wind. So we're excited to be making progress and really setting the stage for the future of offshore in the United States. So Vineyard Wind is a 50-50 partnership with Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners. And I think we just made an announcement yesterday, actually, that we're changing the structure going forward. So for Vineyard Wind, we're keeping it 50-50. But then for some of our offshore other projects, we're going to take full ownership. So that's like for Park City, which is another 804 megawatt project in Connecticut. Avangrid will be the full owners. And then also we have another one that we just participated in the Massachusetts RFP, and that's up to 1,200 megawatts. So we're really excited about that. It's called Commonwealth Wind. But we have a lot in the pipeline, and we're definitely exploring California. So we're coming to the West.
I was wondering, so this is, so far it's an East Coast thing, but
Yeah.
wondering if it was coming West and if there are opportunities, if it's a different opportunity on the West Coast, or is it similar? I mean, the technology is similar, I assume.
Technology is similar, although the water depth is like a lot more substantial on the West. So that's why it's, easier to get in the Northeast. There's a lot more shallow depth on the Northeast. And so it's easier. Plus, you have to look for areas where the electricity prices are high. And so the Northeast definitely is probably the first penetration. And then, we have Kitty Hawk, which is also, it's in North Carolina. So we are, have other projects outside of the Northeast, but we're definitely excited about California, and we think it's going to be a good future for offshore there. So.
Yeah, really exciting. I think in the Northwest, we still have some opportunity for onshore wind and solar. And I have been out of the renewables game for almost a decade at this point. And I was wondering if you could give me some insights into pricing in the Northwest. What's happening? Commodity prices are going up. Natural gas prices have come up in the past year. What should we expect out of wind and solar pricing on long-term contracts? Just expectation setting for me, Holly, please.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the industry as a whole. And so I think you hit the nail on the head as far as like we're seeing a lot of commodity price increases. The other thing that we're seeing a lot of is just labor price increases. So in the Pacific Northwest, union labor is almost an expectation. And so we anticipate a lot of our projects will be utilizing union labor in the future. And so those two factors, as well as for solar, there are a lot of uncertainty regarding tariffs. And so there's a potential that the 201 tariffs that are actually set to expire in February of 22, they may be extended. So there's that. There's like a circumvention case. There's a whole bunch of other factors as far as causing some uncertainties. But right now, solar is on par with wind, and we think it's going to, think it's going to be
even in like the Northwest.
In the Northwest, yeah.
It's unbelievable to me, Holly. I guess I have been out of the business for long enough.
You have been out of the business for a while. You need to come back into the fold.
I'm just happy to like help you pitch to other public power people. How about that? I could be your conduit.
I know. I want to know about public power in the Pacific Northwest, but I mean, we're seeing about $40 to $50 per megawatt hour bus bar solar pricing, and it really depends on the region. And like I said, a lot of other factors. Obviously, NCF is always a big driver, but then other factors as far as labor costs, commodity prices, we're seeing a lot of fluctuation, but the price is definitely coming down. Solar is competitive. We're pricing storage with all of our projects now.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because, one of the things as a public utility, we're trying to serve load, and we're wondering, what type of products, what types of services can we pair with just the energy output of a solar or wind? So can you talk about battery being priced in with these solar or wind projects?
Yeah, I think battery is definitely the wave of the future for the Pacific Northwest. And so a lot of these entities, obviously, a lot of people are looking at participating in the Northwest Power Pool RA program. We're contemplating it as well. And I think when you start looking at some sort of capacity construct using effective load carrying capability, when you do that, you're looking at the loss of load expectation with and without that resource. So when you start looking at that, you really need to have some sort of natural hedge, because as you see a penetration of solar, like you're seeing in CAISO, as you see the penetration, the capacity value is going to start going down. And so when you pair solar naturally with storage, that as that capacity goes down for the solar, the storage can, add up to the capacity. So I think you're going to see storage being a necessity going forward for a lot of these solar projects.
Yeah, it's a really interesting pairing. And can you talk, I like we mentioned, have been out of the game. What is the federal incentives on like solar and battery? Are we getting some, like, we used to have PTCs for wind, or there's still the ITCs on solar? Can you talk a little bit about where that's going? So there's a
lot in flux basically, with the federal tax credits, and there's a lot of proposed bills. So we're all like anxiously awaiting to see what's going to happen in the future. But right now, that's why you're seeing a lot of storage paired with solar, because the only way that you can actually get the ITC for storage is having it paired with an ITC qualifying facility, which typically that's going to lead you towards a solar facility. And so in order for that, you have to charge at least 75% of the time from a solar facility within the first 5 years. And so after that, you can charge as much as you want from the grid. And that's really where you get the savings, is being able to charge from the grid. So at some point when you charge, when you have a storage facility, in the long term, you're going to want to have the flexibility to be able to charge wherever you want to. But we anticipate a standalone storage happening hopefully this year for storage. And so, we are looking at standalone storage opportunity as well. And I think you're going to start seeing that not only where there's land constraints, but also where there's like transmission constraints, and then, partnering it also with some wind facilities, especially if there's areas where there are significant curtailments happening in the future. So I think we're evaluating all sorts of opportunities. We think storage is definitely the wave of the future. And most of our customers, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, are demanding storage. Even some of the C&I customers that are talking to us, they really are interested in it from a 24/7 perspective. I know back when we were both doing wind development, the C&I customers were really interested in what's the cheapest I can get it.
Right.
And now C&I customers are really interested in just really understanding how much that facility actually displaces emissions on the grid as a whole. And then they also want to make sure that the energy is correlating more closely to their load. And so you're seeing a lot of 24/7 products being asked for, which is really expensive, but you definitely need storage in order to be able to make that happen.
I want to dig a little bit more into the commercial and industrial customer aspect of this. So you call them C&I, commercial and industrial, very important part of our load bases and economic opportunities within our regions. How do you see the partnership with utilities, and is there a way that we can work with renewable developers or other IPPs like y'all to make this a win-win for both our customers and for us as utilities? How are you working with utilities? Because I don't want you just to steal my customers. I have, they're my customers, Holly.
So your customers?
Yes.
Dang it. What?
We have, statutory rights to serve the entities within our service territory, but I'd love to partner with people. I
think partnership would be fantastic. And that's what I was asking earlier about, what's the requirements for the public power entities? When you do have commercial and industrial customers, we're seeing a lot of them wanting to site data centers in the Pacific Northwest. And one of the requirements from the public power, how can we partner together? We're getting a lot of requests for virtual power purchase agreements, where, basically you're just taking the energy and we're selling it back the index energy. So it's a more unique structure, and we can do that because we're a wholesale market participant. But I think there's definitely opportunities because, like you said, you have a rec tariff as well where people can participate. But a lot of times the commercial and industrial customer want to point to a specific facility and say, we're that facility would not have been built, without us actually committing to that, buying that energy. So I think there's got to be some ways for us to partner a little bit closer together, because otherwise, like you said, I think they're going to be more unique and more of a financial construct like the VPPA that I mentioned previously.
Yeah, and I really think, that there is an opportunity for new large single loads that provide economic development opportunities for utilities like us, that we can partner with people, because Bonneville won't serve that load. It's not part of our, tier 1 power. So there may be an opportunity for, entities, if they want really renewable power, to go find some people like you. So if they want to reach out, who at Avangrid should they get a hold of? It's obviously you, but you're very busy. Very big personality and big person at Avangrid. So who can they talk to in the Northwest? You want to send me some contact information?
I'll send you some contact information, definitely. Yeah, we'd love to have you guys reach out. We'd love to hear more about the public power in the Pacific Northwest, what people are doing. And, I know the customer expectations are changing. from your guys' perspective. And we love to understand, your guys' challenges and how we can better help you guys in the future.
Absolutely.
So Brian Face is my director for the West, and Brian is fantastic. He came from Portland General Electric. We're super excited to have him on board at Avangrid. He would definitely love to reach out and be in contact with anybody that's interested and send you his information.
Thank you very much. How did this feel? Does this feel good? You feel like this is a good promo? Maybe you want to advertise on Public Power Underground sometime, Holly?
I think so.
That'd
be awesome. I'm a subscriber, so.
Yes, friend of the Underground. Last question. I had some interviews earlier on this episode with some people who'd never heard of Ted Lasso. That is a travesty. Like, we need people who know Ted Lasso, right? Who's your
not
favorite
after
character?
the Emmys? Everybody knows Ted Lasso now.
Well, I mean, I feel like some people don't give it, like, it got Emmys, it got awards, but is it good? Actually good, or is it Emmy good? And it's actually good, right, Holly?
It's actually good. You're the one that recommended it, I don't know, months ago, and I watched it and I was instantly hooked. I love Ted Lasso, and you're asking my favorite character before, and it's really hard. I was told from Brian that I had to commit. I had to decide, so I guess I'll go with Coach Beard.
Beard. Oh, that's awesome.
There's a lot of favorites. I really like Sam too. I like the fact that everybody has their own strengths, and really in season 2, you're starting to see their vulnerabilities coming out, which is exciting because it's complex and it's more real. And I think it's just really inspiring show. I love watching it.
That's a great pitch for Ted Lasso. Thank you very much, Holly. Please come back. Let's do this again.
Sounds good. Thanks, Paul. Have a great day.
You too. Now
Bye.
Back to the Underground for more news.
MIT, in partnership with a fusion startup, Commonwealth Fusion Systems, have set a record by creating the world's most powerful magnetic field. The breakthrough, which boasts a doubling of previous magnetic field strength over the last 3 years, is hailed as the first requirement for generating electricity in a fusion reactor. Fusion reactions, which require intense temperatures and pressures equivalent to a star, can only be contained by a force that doesn't actually come close to the heat. The team's goal is to have a fusion reactor capable of producing net energy by 2025, boasting that the technology will eventually be capable of turning a single glass of water into enough energy for a single person for their entire life. For all 7.9 billion people on Earth, that equates to about 0.00000000005% of the Earth's total fresh water for all of our energy needs for our lives. For more information, see the story by Andy Corbley on www.goodnewsnetwork.org.
Really
appreciate all those zeros.
I had to put that in there because every time people talk about fusion, they say it's unlimited. And I just want to point out that number is not zero. We're turning hydrogen into helium. And I don't believe that process is reversible. So we want to be careful not to turn all of our water into helium.
Good point, Ian. They're really good. I also am really glad that you follow the Good News Network. There's always some good news on the Good News Network.
Okay, clearing ups. Steve Ernst reports on the state of Oregon's 2020 Zero Emission Vehicle adoption in last week's Clearing Up. Steve covers the release of ODO's, that's Oregon Department of Energy's 2021 biennial Zero Emission Vehicle report that was released on September 15th. The report notes that the state fell short of its goal of 50,000 ZEVs registered by 2020. Clatskanie PUD is doing its part. About time y'all started pulling your weight. Just saying. 100% of Clatskanie PUD's economic development department has an EV, and 67% of its power department. There is an expectation of increased adoption coming with an expansion of EV models available. The future is electric, folks. And Steve, thanks for reading the report and summarizing it for us. High five, bud.
I need a high five sound bite. The whistle doesn't really work. This one works.
Sauce.
PBS NewsHour published an article on September 21st about the inauguration of Project Orca, which removes carbon dioxide from the air. The project, which belongs to the Swiss company Climeworks, will start operating this month. The system uses a technology known as direct air capture, or DAC, which traps the CO2 in a chemical agent named sorbent. When the substance fills up, the carbon dioxide it contains is mixed with water and released into an underground well where it undergoes a mineralization process and turns into stones with time, like a lot of time. Orga can remove up to 4,000 metric tons of CO2 from the atmosphere each year. The company has already built similar, less sophisticated projects in mainland Europe that remove hundreds of tons of carbon dioxide from the ambient air. The technology is promising, and Climeworks now has dozens of customers who pay for their carbon removal services. 31 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide was released into the atmosphere last year. While the best solution to decrease that number is to transform our electrical, transportation, and industrial systems into emissions-free sources, projects like Orca will be very useful for sectors that are not easy to rapidly decarbonize. Paul, can I get a Forrest Gump soundbite here?
Yeah, what?
That's all I have to say about that.
That's right. To learn more about this project, you can read the article by John Gertner titled "The Dream of Carbon Air Capture Edges Toward Reality in Iceland," which was originally published in the online magazine Yale Environment 360 on August 25th, or check out this week's episode of the Energy Gang on the topic direct air carbon capture.
The Energy Gang is a great energy podcast. You should probably listen to the Energy Gang before you listen to Public Power Underground, to be quite frank.
This is the way.
It's a really good, and they had a really good discussion about this technology. Okay, is that?
I think that's it. So that's all the news we're covering this week. Send us any news, questions, opinions, or corrections to Paul on Twitter @APowerManager, or if you're a friend of the Underground, send any of us a note. Any corrections from the last week, Ian?
I don't have any corrections, but when I was watching the interview with Tufan, I noticed that he pluralized the word premium using the Latin plural, that is premia. I have only ever heard the word premium pluralized in English as premiums, but I think it's a very highbrow method of pluralizing that word, and I'm going to always use it in the future.
I'm on board with premia.
It sounds good.
Sounds really good.
Sounds very premium. Yep, very good. Anything from you, Karen? Any corrections?
No corrections. I think we're getting season 3 going. I feel like I got my headset. We're all stepping it up.
100% agree.
100%.
Yeah, we're really stepping up the audio situation here shortly.
I really feel like we need to mention that Brian Fawcett is he's been helping us get back into season 3, and he's taking vacation. And I very much support vacation, but we're going to be out next week, aren't you? For 2 weeks?
2 weeks. Very much looking forward to it. I would say I'm halfway checked out today as it is, but I'm trying to get a few things done and enjoy being on the podcast. This is the Thursday thing.
It is. We got some good socializing in here. I feel really good about it.
I have spoken.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ian and Karen, for the corrections and thoughts. We'll be back next week to talk about public power and public power adjacent news. To make sure you don't miss an episode, you can sign up for an unintrusive newsletter with links to all the ways to consume this fascinating content and links to the news articles we chatted about on Substack at publicpowerunderground.substack.com. Otherwise, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or your favorite podcast app. That's all for this week. Thanks for tuning in.
Enthusiasts, roll on. Roll on, enthusiasts, roll on. Roll on, enthusiasts, roll on. We're likely recruiting you to come and join on. Roll on, enthusiasts, roll on.
Public Power Underground is Northwest public power news from a power department's perspective, presented for entertainment purposes. It's written, edited, and produced by the Power Department and friends of the Power Department. The views expressed here are our own and not the official views of Clatskanie IPUD, PPC, nor of any person or organization affiliated or doing business with Clatskanie IPUD, nor the organization of the guests also appearing on Public Power Underground. Neither Clatskanie IPUD nor those appearing on Public Power Underground generate ad revenue from the episode. Make Dan, Simon, Mike, and Holly feel better about their participation in this week's episode by sending them a note, text, or email with a thumbs up and telling them how much you enjoyed it. Do it for us, do it for them, and do it to make other people feel valued and appreciated. Public Power Underground for electric utility enthusiasts. Public Power Underground, it's work to watch.
Canadian
northwest to the ocean so blue. Roll on, Columbia, roll on. Roll on, Columbia, roll on. Roll on, Columbia, roll on. Your power is turning our darkness to dawn. So roll on.